February 26, 1959. A search team reaches the eastern slope of Kholat Syakhl and finds what they've been looking for. The tent is partially buried in snow. The entrance is still sealed, but the fabric wall has been cut open from the inside, sliced through, with a knife in at least 2 places by someone who needed to get out, and didn't stop to unzip. Inside, boots, coats, the stove, food, a diary, everything needed to survive a night at minus 30 degrees Celsius. All of it left behind. Leading away from the tent, down toward the distant tree line, 8 or 9 sets of footprints in the snow. Some bare feet, some in socks, none in adequate winter footwear. Something made 9 experienced hikers cut their way out of their shelter and walk into that. No one has ever fully explained what. Their names were Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, Lyudmila Dubinina, Rustem Slobodin, Yuri Doroshenko, Yuri Krivonishenko, Alexander Kolevatov, Nicholas Thibaut Brignolel, and Semyon Zolotaryov. 9 people, graduate students and young engineers from the Ural Polytechnical Institute in Sverdlovsk. They were not amateurs. The expedition was rated Category 3, the highest difficulty grade, in the Soviet hiking certification system. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, was 23, an electronics engineering student known for careful planning and multiple successful expeditions. He had designed his own equipment. He had done this before. The others were equally qualified. Kolmogorova, 22, kept a personal diary throughout the trip, portions of which survived and have since been published. Dubinina, 20, was the most experienced female hiker in the group. Krivonishenko, 23, had worked at Mayak, a Soviet nuclear facility that had suffered one of the worst nuclear accidents in history 2 years earlier, a detail that would matter later. And then there was Zolotaryov, 38, the oldest by 15 years, a ski instructor who joined the group at the last minute to fulfill certification hours. His age, his late addition, and certain inconsistencies in his personal history would later make him a specific subject of scrutiny. A 10th member, Yuri Yudin, had been part of the group. He turned back on January 28th with joint pain and sciatica. He shook hands with his friends, watched them continue north into the mountains, and turned south. He was the last person to see them alive. He would spend the next 54 years trying to understand what happened to them. The group's last confirmed photographs, recovered from cameras found at the scene and developed after the search, show them on the afternoon of February 1st, setting up camp on the open slope of Kholat Syakhl. They had meant to reach the sheltered tree line below, but the weather turned, visibility dropped, and the slope was where they stopped. They pitched the tent, they ate, they settled in for the night. That was the last night any of them were alive. When the group failed to return by February 12th and failed to make contact by the 20th, a search was organized. Fellow students first, then the Army, then aviation. Mikhail Sharavin found the tent on February 26th. The first 5 bodies were recovered over the following week. Each one told part of a story that didn't hold together. Doroshenko and Krivonishenko were found first, at the base of a large cedar tree, 1.5 kilometers from the tent, at the edge of the tree line. Both were in their underwear, barefoot. The cedar's lower branches had been broken off to a height of 5 meters. Someone had climbed it, probably trying to see the tent through the dark. A small fire had been started at the base. It had burned briefly, not long enough. Both died of hypothermia. Igor Dyatlov was found on March 5th, approximately 300 meters up the slope from the cedar, closer to the tent. Lying on his back, one hand gripping a small birch branch. He was better dressed than the 2 at the cedar. He was heading back. Kolmogorova was found that same day, further up the slope still, on her hands and knees, significant abrasions on her forearms from crawling over frozen ground. Also heading back. Between them, Slobodin. A skull fracture, 6 centimeters. that the medical examiner determined had not immediately incapacitated him. He had walked some distance on it, and then he hadn't. 5 bodies. A clear pattern. The group had fled together, split near the cedar, and at least 3 had tried to return. All of them, in different ways, failed. The 4 who had not yet been found. They were a different story entirely. May 4th. The snow had begun to melt. In a ravine 75 meters from the cedar tree, under approximately 4 meters of accumulated snow, the remaining 4. They were the best dressed of the 9, wearing, in some cases, clothing that had been stripped from the bodies of Doroshenko and Krivonishenko, who had been found nearly naked. This means these 4 had outlived the others by hours at minimum. They had organized, they had tried, but they were carrying injuries that made survival impossible. Nicolas Thibault Brignolel had a massive depressed skull fracture that the medical examiner described as requiring a force comparable to a car accident. There was no corresponding wound on the outside of his skull. No cut, no laceration. Zolotaryov had multiple fractured ribs and fatal hemorrhaging into the chest cavity. The same pattern of force, the same absence of external injury. Dubinina, the most experienced female hiker in the group, had fractured ribs on both sides and hemorrhaging into the heart muscle. She was also missing her tongue, her eyes, the soft tissue of her face. The original examiner attributed the soft tissue loss to decomposition, to 3 months of exposure to a stream flowing below the snow. This explanation is in the official record. It has not satisfied many of the researchers who have examined what decomposed and what didn't and why. And then there was the radiation. Forensic testing showed elevated beta radioactive contamination on clothing belonging to Krivonishenko, Dubinina, and Zolotaryov. Krivonishenko's connection to Mayak, the facility responsible for the 1957 Kishtim nuclear disaster, explains elevated contamination on his own clothing. On the others, who had no documented nuclear connection, the explanation becomes less clean. 4 people, 4 meters of snow. Injuries the official record cannot fully account for. This is the center of the Dyatlov Pass incident. Everything else is context. 67 years of investigation have produced serious theories. None of them explain everything. All explain something. In 2021, Swiss researchers Johann Gaume and Alexander Puzerin published a peer-reviewed study in Communications, Earth and Environment proposing a delayed slab avalanche. Not a large one, a small localized slab. Their model shows that cutting into the slope to pitch the tent could have destabilized the snowpack. Wind loading increased pressure through the night. Hours later, a narrow slab struck the sleeping group in a confined space, producing severe localized internal trauma without the catastrophic debris field of a larger slide. It is the only peer-reviewed scientific model of the incident. The weakness, the original search teams, experienced mountaineers, reported no slide debris on the slope. The tent was found largely intact, and the slope angle at roughly 15 degrees is below typical avalanche terrain. These objections have not been fully resolved. A second theory concerns what wind does when it crosses a mountain. Kholat Shakol's summit shape can produce what's known as a karman, vortex street, rotating air masses that, under specific conditions, generate infrasound, sound below 20 hertz, below the threshold of human hearing. Research has associated infrasound exposure with unexplained panic, dread, and disorientation. Some researchers have proposed that specific wind conditions on February 1st generated infrasound powerful enough to drive the group from their tent. This theory accounts for the panicked exit well. It does not account for the skull fractures. Then there is the theory that will not be dismissed. The northern Urals were a region of active Soviet military testing into 1959. Multiple independent weather stations documented unusual luminous phenomena in the sky in early February of that year. The radioactive contamination, the injuries that some researchers describe as consistent with blast overpressure, and Lev Ivanov, the lead investigator himself, who, in the final years of his life, stated publicly that he believed the case had been suppressed and that something aerial and unexplained had been involved. No specific test has been documented on this date and location. The theory is difficult to prove. It is also, given the era and the region, difficult to fully rule out. And then there is something much simpler and well documented: paradoxical undressing. When hypothermia reaches a critical stage, the brain misfires. Blood vessels near the skin suddenly dilate. A person, in the final stages of freezing, feels paradoxically intensely hot and removes their clothing. It is a real phenomenon, documented in forensic records worldwide. It explains why Doroshenko and Krivonashenko were found in their underwear in -30-degree cold. It does not explain why they left the tent in the first place. In 2019, under sustained pressure from the victims' relatives, the Russian government formally reopened the case. The mandate was limited from the start to 3 possibilities: avalanche, snowslide, or blizzard. Criminal and military explanations were explicitly excluded before the investigation began. In 2020, the official conclusion was a slab-type snowslide. The Dyatlov Foundation, maintained by the victims' families and independent researchers, publicly rejected the finding as incomplete. They continue their work. They have been continuing for 67 years. Let's separate what is confirmed from what is not. What is confirmed? 9 experienced hikers exited their tent through cuts made from the inside in clothing inadequate for the conditions in extreme cold. They did not return for the gear left behind. 5 died of hypothermia at varying distances from the tent. Some appear to have been attempting to return. 4 died of severe blunt force trauma, injuries the medical examiner. Compared to car accidents without proportional external wounds, they outlived the others. They stripped clothing from the dead, and then they died too. Radioactive contamination was found on 3 victims' clothing. The lead investigator, Lev Ivanov, closed the case in 1959 with the words, "unknown compelling force." In the years before his death in 1990, he gave interviews saying he had been directed to close the case. That he believed it was connected to something in the sky, and that he had personally observed luminous aerial phenomena during the investigation. His statements are documented. They are testimony, not evidence. And then there was Yuri Yudin, the one who turned back, who watched. His friends continue north and turned south. He spent 54 years trying to understand what happened to them. He corresponded with researchers. He gave interviews. He examined the artifacts. He read the case files when they were declassified. He died in 2013, still not knowing. 9 people, 1 night. And after 67 years, 2 formal investigations and a peer-reviewed scientific study, still no explanation that accounts for all the evidence simultaneously. The Dyatlov Pass incident is not a mystery with a missing piece. It is a mystery where the pieces don't come from the same puzzle. What do you think happened on that slope? Leave your answer in the comments. And if you're new here, subscribe. Grim Chronicle covers the cases that don't have clean endings. There are more of them than you'd think.